Good afternoon. Welcome to the meeting of the Oklahoma City Board of Adjustment for July the 6th, 2017. If you have a cell phone or other electronic device, we would appreciate your putting it on silent or vibrate. And we will get started. Do I have a motion with respect to receiving the minutes from last meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please cast your vote. They're received. The consent agenda?
We have two continuances, item number 13, 14369, and item number 14, 14374 are being continued, or asked to be continued to the August 3rd meeting.
Does anyone from the public have any objection or anything to respond to with respect to that? Do we have a motion?
I move that we continue items number 13 and 14 to the August agenda?
August 3rd.
August 3rd.
Please cast your vote. Second.
We have two on the consent docket. Case number one, item number one, case number 14370 for a front yard setback, and item number two, case number 14371 for a 5-foot side yard setback.
And we have a request by, is Mr. Rowland present? And in light of that, we will move item number 14371. We'll just take that up in due course. Otherwise, does anyone have anything to say on the other item on the consent agenda? If not, do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve case number 14370.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes.
Item number three, case. Are we moving item number two to the end?
No, we can still take them up in the same
Yeah.
order. But
Okay.
they're just being individually considered since we have someone to speak on it.
Item number two, case number 14371, request of McCullough Homes OKC LLC for a variance to the required 5-foot side yard setback in the R1 single-family residential district located at 11324 Southwest 41st Terrace.
Sir, if you wouldn't mind, would you state your name and your address for the record and tell us about your request?
Kendall Dillon with Craft & Toll, representing the applicant, and this is just simply a request for an encroachment into the side yard setback. If you'll notice, it's on a curve, but then in addition to that, there's a reverse curve in the right-of-way. So when the builder set the house up, they went to the wrong corner, and so it's merely a 1.9-foot encroachment for just the corner of the house. So it's not noticeable, it really has no impact, but that's the purpose of our request, and be happy to answer any questions, ask for your approval.
Does anyone have any questions of him?
There's no discussion. I'd make a motion to approve 14371.
We have someone that wants to be heard on that.
Kendall, just to be clear, the house is there.
The house is built. It's completely finished.
Okay.
Mr. Rowland? Sir, if you wouldn't mind, would you state your name and your address for the record?
My name is Tom Rowland. My address is 4500 Braden Court, Tuttle.
And would you tell us the reason that you're here today?
Okay, I own the property due east. They show a 1.89 encroachment. What that is I have a photograph of the corner of the property here. May I submit it?
Okay, if you would hand that.
that protrudes out into the easement. And what I'm concerned about is that is a trip hazard. You have people going through, if someone buys my house, puts a fence up there, and then all of a sudden somebody comes around and tries to get through there, they're liable to trip and fall into the fence. I don't want to have my customers being sued because of their error. And the second thing is, this is not a minor mistake. They have encroached almost 40% of the building setback. And I think this is something that needs to be seriously looked at. It is not a minor thing. It's a big mistake. And it could have been caught by simple, proper management. The fact that there's a radius pin, they filed the plot plan. The plot plan shows the boundaries of the lot. And there's really, this could have been caught 3 or 4 times before they got to the stage of being, long before they framed. This is a fairly egregious error.
So just to be clear, you understand that the encroachment, albeit into the setback, is entirely on their own property?
Yes, that is correct.
And you understand that the house is there? It's
Yes,
in place.
I know it's there.
Okay.
I'm building the house next door.
Anything else, sir? Does anyone else have any questions? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Does anyone else from the public have any comments or would like to speak on this issue? Does the board have any questions or any motions with respect to this item?
If there's no more discussion and nobody else wishes to speak, I'd make a motion to approve the application.
Second.
Please cast your votes.
Item number 3, case number 14329, request of Midtown Redevelopment Corporation for a variance to the maximum square footage and the prohibition of signs not located within 3 feet of the curb or 50 feet of the edge of the roadway in the DBD Downtown Business District and the DTD Downtown Transitional District Limited at several locations in that area.
Is there anyone here to speak on this item? Would you
Ross
give us
Simon
your-
Phillip, 221 Northwest 24th.
Welcome
and
back.
I'm representing, I'm sorry?
Welcome back.
Oh. Yeah. Been back a few times.
Do you have anything to add to this matter?
No, I think the item that kind of hung us up last time, I believe, has been resolved. I think we had the other issues addressed with the side triangle. So I think, unless you have any questions.
Did any member of the board have any questions? Is there any member of the public that would like to be heard on this issue? Thank you very much, sir. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move for approval. Case number 14329.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes.
All right,
You are
appreciate it.
approved, sir.
Item number 4, case number 14362, request of Oklahoma Gas and Electric Company for a variance to the required frontage to an approved street in the DTD2 Downtown Transitional General District located at 48 Southeast 10th Street.
Sir, would you state your name and your address for the record, please?
Indeed. Paul LaFever, 522 Cole Court, represent the applicant in this matter. What's being requested here is a variance from the requirement for frontage on an approved street. In this instance, the property is landlocked. It obtains its access to South Santa Fe Avenue by means of an easement across property owned by Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City improved the drive lane, but it is not considered an approved street from a construction standpoint.
Any member of the board have any questions of the applicant?
I was just going to say, I had requested of staff some confirmation that emergency services was okay with that, and I received that assurance. So my only concern about the ingress and egress was whether, emergency vehicles were capable of using it. I noticed that the staff report tells us that what's there is sufficient for OG&E's purpose. I just, so. Nobody else has anything they want to add. I'll move approval. Case number 14362.
Second.
Any member of the public want to be heard on this issue? Please cast your votes.
Item number 5, case number 14364, request of Richard Horton for a variance to the 20-foot rear yard setback in PUD 518 district located at 5800 Rose Bay Court.
Good afternoon, David Box, 522 Colcord Drive, here on behalf of the applicant. Also with me is the
Mr.
applicant.
Box, I have to recuse myself.
Okay.
And so I am going to appoint Ms. Powers as the chair for this portion of the meeting. So
Okay.
I'll step out if that's all right with you.
Perfect. We still have 3. Madam Chair, David Box, 522 Colcord Drive. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, who's also with me, Mr. Horton. What we're asking for is a variance to the rear yard setback that is found within PUD 518. The reason for the request stems from his desire to build a pool and patio in his backyard. I've handed out 2 separate things, one of which starts with an image from Google Earth. The other starts with an image of his backyard as it sits today. I'd like to start with the packet that has the image from his backyard today and kind of walk you through why we're here. As you can see, there's no pool, there's no patio now. The next page is a reflection of the covered patio that will be built. In the after, it's on the screen as well. The third page is perhaps the main problem. And what you'll see is this is a view from inside Mr. Horton's house looking towards his back fence. And what stands out to me is the window that appears to be peering over his backyard. That creates some sense of privacy issues. And so what he would seek to do, the fourth page is a perspective from the same window. And what you'll see is what he would have in the after. The reason for my Google Earth printout, what you'll see is there are multiple other pools in and around the Gaillardia community in which portions of the pool and or covered patios have encroached into that 20-foot setback. Of perhaps more importance, though, is in your packet you should have had a April 21st, 2017 letter from the Gaillardia Community Association. This is a neighborhood in which before you build anything, you must gain approval through the Architectural Committee. Mr. Horton went through the proper process there. This April 21st letter is a responsive filing in which they granted approval based upon their covenants and everything else that controls that neighborhood. What he seeks to build is in conformance with that. I would note that the typical residential setback is 10 feet, and we're still going to be able to maintain that. So what we're asking for, in essence, is to allow him to build what is a common occurrence throughout this neighborhood. So there are no objections of any neighbors. As I said, he went through the neighborhood process without any problems. So we'd be happy to answer any questions, and we'd ask for your approval.
I have one question. The regulations were specifically negotiated with the Planning Commission and Dr. by the Council. Can you respond to that issue about the specific negotiations of this?
Yeah, I have no idea. Ms. Powers would have been there, but I was not involved in PUD 518. It wasn't my recollection that that was a big sticking point. I think perhaps my father was involved in that PUD with Tim Johnson when it was originally approved. I'm not sure that that was a big sticking point. You know, again, the neighborhood has a separate architectural review committee, and this is I'm not sure if everyone's come before this board to seek the appropriate setback variance. He's going through this the right way, seeking all the appropriate permits, so that's what triggered this. But in terms of that being a big sticking point,
Yeah, I was going to offer that comment. Unlike, you know, things like signage and other issues that are very often very specifically negotiated, setbacks typically are not. So, frankly, I favor, very often you'll hear me favor things that are PUD or SPUD variations to go back through a zoning process, but that's really not the case here, I don't think. And frankly, the ability of an architectural review committee that's there and dealing with these things all the time is you know, actually perhaps a better venue, frankly. Do you have any other comments from members of
Is there
the,
anybody from the public that wishes to speak?
anybody else wish to be heard on this matter today?
If not, and there's no more discussion in the board, I'd make a motion to approve the application 14364.
I second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item number 5, case number 14364. Would you cast your votes, please? It's approved.
thank you.
Are you ready, Mr.
Item-
Chair?
Item number 6, case number 14365, request of Megan and Jeremy Allen for a variance to the 10-foot rear yard setback in R1 Single Family Residential District located at 1159 West Wilshire Boulevard.
Would you tell us your name for the record and your address?
My name is David Hornbeek, and my address is 101 South Broadway, Suite 200 in Edmond, Oklahoma, but I'm here with the owners of the property, and their address is 1159 West Wilshire.
Would you tell us about your application, sir?
I was engaged to help design an addition onto this house, and we measured the lot according to where the fence was setting, and I thought that that was the accurate placement of the property pins. And we designed an addition to the home, knowing that we had to be 10 foot off of the rear, 10-foot setback off of the rear property line. We have come up within a certain area of that. I have some presentation, PowerPoint, if it's all right, if it pleases the board here. I'd like to present some items in that.
Certainly.
How long is it?
It's only about 8 slides, and there's not much more information than what you're reading right now, but I'm having a, there we go. How do I advance it? There we go. Pertinent facts. The original plat of this neighborhood was in 1907, the date of August, and you can see it here. That's 3 months before statehood, and if I go back to that, the original plat had a 10-foot alley behind each lot, and at that time the automobile had not influenced our society the way it has now. If a neighborhood like this were platted now, the alley would be 20 foot wide, and it wouldn't be 10 foot. Now, what has occurred is that every neighbor on, I'm going the wrong way, pardon me. every neighbor in this neighborhood has built their fence back to the center line of the alley, except for the neighbor behind them to the north. They're the only one that has their fence still on their property line. And when we saw that, I thought that that was the alley was reflected, and we thought that the property line was on, their fence was on their property line. Anyway, we went forward, and we now have a situation where the addition that we're proposing is will be within 5 feet of their property line, but 10 feet of their fence. And essentially, the solution for us is to abandon the alley, but we don't have time to go through that legal aspect. What we're asking is that if the alley is looked upon as a utility easement, which is where the utilities are, the power poles are right on the fence line, and the sewer is actually on the other side of this, in the 5-foot area between their fence and their neighbor's fence. But every other house in the entire block, their property goes back. And so, and I believe that this has been that way. This house is 50 years old. I believe that that's been this way for 50 years. You can also see, I did this one, I'm sorry, I'm going the wrong way. This is from the county assessor, and I enlarged it. Is there a cursor? Or will this show up? Yeah. Every house on this side of the street, the property line actually goes back to that. In other words, I don't know whether these people have been able to successfully get those original alleys abandoned in that particular area, but this shows the alley, but if you could see that better, you'll see that the fence line is in between it. So we're suggesting that since the fence has been there for 50 years, and if we consider our 5 foot of the alley as part of the setback, and we would be 10 foot off of the center line of the alley, and we would be in accordance to normal plat development if this were done today. In other words, today you probably would not put an alley behind the lots. You'd put a 10-foot utility easement with 5 foot on each side of the property line, and in that sense, through common fence location, the alley's been abandoned for many, many years. And so we're asking that you consider give us consideration and allow us to build within 5 foot of our property line, but 10 foot of the center of the alley where the fence is.
Thank you. Does you have any questions?
JJ, has any part of the alley actually been closed? No. Has any part of the alley actually been closed? Has the city taken any action at all with respect to the alley?
We haven't seen that any of the alleys in the neighborhood have ever been closed.
Okay.
JJ, can you tell me what happened then on the block directly west, why that on the county assessor the alley doesn't go all the way through?
I can only guess that it partially maybe has been closed. But
And it's like that on the block north of that also. Okay.
don't have a good answer.
Any other questions by anyone?
Is there anybody else who wants to be heard?
Anybody from the audience that would like to be heard on this?
I'll make a motion to approve item number 6, case number 14365.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Votes?
Thank you for your consideration.
Item number 7, case number 14367, request of VOMC Resources Corporation for a variance to the 25-foot front yard setback in the I-2 Moderate Industrial District located at 113 Northeast 138th Street.
Is the applicant here? Is anyone here on, would you read the case number again?
Case number 14367, 113 Northeast 138th Street.
Anybody here for that case? Well, I'll tell you what, we'll just move this to the end of the docket and we'll address it at that point.
Item number 8, case number 14368, request of GNS Sign Services LLC for a variance to the maximum size and landscaping requirements for an accessory sign in the C3 Community Commercial District located at 2401 Northwest 23rd Street.
Is there anyone here on this request?
My name is Cameron Gleason. I'm with G&S Sign Services located at 1019 East Grand Boulevard, Oklahoma City, here representing Christopher Nard with Shepherd Mall. So basically I'm going to start with, because there's two parts to this variance. One was with the landscaping, the other was with the square footage. I will start with square footage. For the calculation of a double-sided sign, there you calculate one side, and for a three-sided sign, we have to calculate all three sides and add the total. That's why the square footage is racked up so much with a sign of this size. So our idea was to keep the same size and keep the same landmark sign for this property, and really we only increased the height by 3 feet, and we've gotten actually smaller width-wise from the original sign. Along with that, the text, we wanted to make the sign a lot cleaner so that the text on all three sides actually only totals up to 120 square feet of actual signage. Along with that, for the landscaping, with this nature of the size of the sign, our landscaping is the required points is quite a bit, and we can't move any further south west because of the fact that you actually interfere with the site triangle of that intersection. So our only option would to be actually digging out the parking lot, which would require another couple of permits probably, and would require a lot more work to actually keep the points to 506, to get up to 506 points. And we were worried that if we added that many more points, that the sign would become overgrown and would just look, could possibly look tacky in the long run. It'd be a lot of landscaping work and maintenance. So if you guys have any questions.
Any questions by members of the board?
I do. This is what the sign's going to look like?
Yes.
Okay. And this is the only sign we're talking about, right? We're not
Right.
adding any signs?
No.
Not putting up any additional signs? Staff report says there's area on the site to meet the landscaping requirement. You don't mean necessarily at the base of the sign?
Not at the base of the sign. It could put it at other locations on the property.
Yeah, we like landscaping. You could put it at other places on the property. We would like that just fine, I think.
Okay. Well, you have to put in with 10 feet within the sign, correct?
Yeah, well, we'll give you a little more room than that.
Okay.
You're never going to hear me say this. Well, not never, but I don't have any problem with this. This sign's been here a long time.
I just had a question. The new sign design, you've got Shepherd Center on one side and then the other side is blank. Is the other side set up so that you can use it for messaging like we see it in the example of the old sign? Or is it, what happens over there?
Oh, on the blank side of each panel? There's nothing going to be there. Nothing will be there.
So there's no opportunity for messaging about events or anything like that?
No, just to make a clean look. The other side, there are alternating sides for best viewing angles for the streets.
Is the sign lighted or?
It will have floodlights at the bottom. No.
But it's not an EMD sign.
No. It'll internally light, but it'll only be the Shepherd Center and then the floodlights.
Did Ms. Powers make a motion to approve the application?
I will make a motion. If nobody else has anything else they want to say.
Does anybody from the public want to be heard on this issue? We have a motion. Do we have a second?
We have a second.
Please cast your votes.
Thank you.
Item number 9, case number 14372, request of Metro Sign Corporation for a variance to locate a sign on or over a street right-of-way in the C3 Community Commercial District located at 1029 North Mustang Road.
Good afternoon. I'm Jess Schweinberg with Metro Sign in Oklahoma City, 401 North Ann Arbor. The owner of the property works out of the country and was unable to make it today. What we're asking from you folks today is there is an extreme amount of right-of-way on this intersection at Mustang Road. We've got a pole sign that falls underneath the minimum or the maximum requirements of C3 or maximum allowable in C3 zoning, and an aesthetically appealing sign that incorporated a message center, brick base, drive it finish accent pole cover on it. We're asking to allow the sign to be installed in the right-of-way, far away from all the easements. There's no water or sewage that's going to impede it. Success and opportunity for this business to be successful, it's going to require a pole sign out there. East of this property is a convenience store that has two rather larger size and square footage size than what we're proposing here, one on Mustang Road and one on 10th Street. And we're just asking for your approval. We have been given a verbal that we've already filed for revocable, and the revocable will be approved as long as this commission will approve the variance for it to be in the right-of-way.
Anyone have any questions?
I do, about the right-of-way, just for my own information, why the right-of-way would be located where it is at this location. And
The only thing I could guess is that I believe Mustang Road's a state highway, and being also at an intersection, it was widened.
that would have been the justification.
I have a question.
Okay.
Is this what the sign's going to look like?
Yes, ma'am.
JJ, is this a pole sign?
It's 25-foot overall height.
Monument, it's just a tall monument.
Tall monument, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I just, couldn't bear the idea that my record would be blemished with voting for a pole sign, but I think I'm okay with this one. Monument sign, though it is.
We will meet the requirements of the landscaping within 10 foot of the sign, as Mrs. Powers loves landscaping.
I do love landscaping.
Does anybody else on the board have any questions, or does any member of the public wish to be heard on this issue?
I just had a small question.
Yes,
on the
ma'am.
unfavorable consideration, appears to be space on the property to locate the sign in accordance with the code. Can you respond to that?
Excuse me?
There appears to be space on the property to locate the sign in accordance with the code.
Well, see, unfortunately, two things happen on this entire project. One, the owner of the property and who's building this car wash was unaware of the true nature of the right-of-way. Curb cuts come in, concretes come in, and it is a car wash. Flow of traffic in a car wash is important, in and out, egress, and there's actually no room to go farther to the southwest, go into the concrete without impeding and confusing the flow of traffic. The sign itself, where we have it proposed right now, could go a little bit more to the west, southwest in that right-of-way, but the problem is there are some phone lines and fiber that we'll have to contend with. Where it sits now, it's far enough away from sewage. It's 60 foot off of Mustang Road. It's 80 foot off of 10th Street. It well sets into the property that, unfortunately, the owner thought he owned.
Are we satisfied that there are no sightline issues? No, we're not satisfied, or no, there are no sightline issues?
Any other questions by anyone? Do I
Make
hear
a motion to approve the application.
a second? Please cast your votes.
Thank you very much.
Item number 10, case number 14373, request of Troy D. Rhodes and Company, LLC, for a variance to the sign height requirement in PUD 507 district located at 3500 Southwest 119th Street.
Please give us your name and address.
My name is Troy Rhodes. My address is 4323 Northwest 63rd. I'm an architect representing Mid-America Christian University, which is at 3500 Southwest 119th Street.
Tell us about your application, please.
The current property has a PUD that was put in place in 1995. Our request is specifically about the height of the signage that's within that PUD. The PUD allows for 2 ground signs in front of the current administration building, which on the view you're looking at there is the center building that says Mid-America Christian University. So 2 signs in front of that, plus 1 additional ground sign for each building. The specific requirement that was negotiated as part of the PUD said that they should be constructed of brick, masonry, wood materials, be externally lit, landscaped around the base, and stand no higher than 6 feet. What we are requesting is to allow for these signs to stand no higher than 12 feet. We are proposing, our firm has been engaged in trying to help the university come up with what they're calling campus enhancements. And so we are proposing to take away the current sign, which is located directly in the center of the administration building, relocate that particular entry drive where that sign is located further to the east to align with the current drive that's on the east, or excuse me, the current parking that's on the east, to help mainly for traffic flow. But the intent is that we would have 1 sign that would be located on the east drive, 1 sign that would be located on the west drive. Those are what we're calling sign 1, which on the screen there is on the left-hand side. And then a single sign that would be located in the center, centered on the administration building, and it would be located more in an east-west orientation and would be primarily the large M that is part of their logo. We are proposing that the materials be consistent with the current building materials that are used on their campus, primarily consisting of masonry products, but also using some metals that are also being used. The signs right now, the 2 main monument signs that we're proposing, the main body of the sign does stay within that 6-foot maximum. There is just a small portion that's represents about 20% of the area that does extend up vertically to the 12-foot height and includes essentially just their M logo. And then for the large M logo that's in the center of the campus, it's actually about a 9-foot tall M that's sitting on top of a 3-foot pedestal or a base. We do anticipate meeting all the landscape requirements for the signage, as well as additional landscaping and additional increased widths in the drives that we're working toward, as well as improvements in their paving and hardscaping, landscaping around campus, and lighting. So this is really just a part of an overall improvement for their campus. Just a couple of quick notes about their campus. It is about it's about 66 acres. It fronts on Southwest 119th Street. That frontage is 1,914 feet. And just in the last 10 years, just a few notes about the university itself, the last 10 years, enrollment has increased from 750 to nearly 2,500 students. Employment has increased from 50 to 75 employees to just over 200 employees. And as you can imagine, signage is critical for the future growth of that university, as well as curb awareness. Many people in South Oklahoma City see Mid-America as an educational hub, as well as for public events and athletic events. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those and request for your approval.
The justification for 3 signs, the staff report says the PUD allows for a monument sign at the administration building, as well as additional signs for each building fronting Southwest 119th.
Correct.
What I see, I don't see 3 buildings.
There are 3, the 3 buildings that are currently on 109th Street. On the far left-hand side is their athletic building. The center building is the administration building, and then the building that's on the far right, which is their eastern building, is an academic building. So those are the 3 buildings that we are that currently front Southwest 119th Street.
And the speed limit for 119th Street currently is?
I believe it's 45.
Historically, I'm sure that that street has been widened and the speed limit has probably increased over the years. Does anybody,
I do not know. It is currently a 4-lane street.
Well, you know how I feel about PUDs and their signage requirements, but I would note that the PUD that was under consideration here is more than 20 years old, and it seems to me fair to revisit that and to look at current conditions.
and I think, the traffic flow and the pattern and the speed at which traffic, passes by the campus is, also a reason to consider it too.
If I may say, what they're trying to accomplish is kind of to create a marker on the site for the university along that corridor at 119th Street. And I think one means of doing that is through signage. And so limiting it to a 6-foot sign seems a little challenging to create those markers.
And I'll tell you, I was at a family home this weekend where, you turn off a county road at North Edmond, and there's very little notice of where the driveway is. And the one thing you don't want people to do is to see a sign at the last minute and, hit the brakes hard and create a traffic situation too. So I think, reasonable signage, the 12-foot height, I think we can justify it. The placement of 3 signs, we can justify that. If there's no more discussion, I would make a motion to approve the application.
Is there anyone from the audience or public that would like to be heard on this issue? We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes.
Thank you.
Item number 11, case number 14375, request of Adam Callaway for a variance to the 25-foot side yard setback and a requirement that an accessory structure be located behind the rear wall of the main structure in PUD 259 district located at 7521 Dripping Springs Lane.
Yes, my name is Adam Callaway. I reside at and own the property at 7521 Dripping Springs Lane. I'm seeking a variance for the 25-foot setback rule and the location for the accessory building behind the rear wall of the structure itself. The rear yard sits on a 18 to 20 degree slope, so it inhibits a lot of digging. There's sandstone throughout the entire area, as in the front yard, as you could see in the picture. There's already erosion that shows sandstone, 4 inches below the soil. So excavating all the sandstone that is also in the rear makes it extremely difficult without large equipment or, I guess, destroying it with other means. The rear yard is also, we have large electrical cable coming from the transformer that actually resides in the neighbor's yard that runs through the middle of the rear yard. The septic tank, along with lateral lines and extension of lateral lines that were done by the original owner in the early 90s, extend beyond the fence line on the north side of the property, or north side of the actual dwelling itself where the driveway is. There's no other feasible location for the actual shed. My dad has recently had to move in for some family issues, death in the family in Kansas. So he has had to move in, and now I'm having to accommodate a lot of his equipment, a lot of his tools, and a lot of his stuff. There's nowhere else for him. So he now currently lives with me.
Any questions?
Have you spoken to your neighbors? Are they okay with this?
Actually, yes. I believe I provided 2 letters, one from the neighbor directly to the south or to the left of the property, and one from the neighbor across the street that it directly, I guess, is in his line of sight when he exits his front door. They didn't have any issues with it or any problems with it, and I've spoken with both of them.
Do you have an architectural review committee in your neighborhood? Is there somebody else that you need to submit your plan to at all?
There is no HOA in the neighborhood.
Okay.
We had a similar case a few weeks back where it was just the applicant had done everything and responded, to every request that was made, and then, you end up in a situation like this. And so I'm very sympathetic with the situation that you're in, and when it's an appropriate time, I'm going to support your application.
Any other questions?
Just as a clarification, you all got the permit, and it wasn't until somebody else applied for one that did you find out it was issued in error?
Well, the initial structure was approximately 14 and a half foot in height. It was 2 stories and 288 square foot. Then I found out that a permit wasn't required for under a 10 foot and under 200 square foot. So I downsized the structure to accommodate the non-permit issue, not knowing there was a zoning regulation. I came to the zoning office, and the document that I got basically told me under 10 foot, under 200 square foot, permit not required. It didn't mention any regulations at the time. Then I believe somebody else in the neighborhood, called the city, and that's when I was informed of the zoning regulation. The structure itself sits about 9.5 foot from the neighbor's property line and about 10 to 11 foot from the structure. I can't go any closer to the structure. There's the main water line off the well comes down that side of the house between the structure and the house itself and dumps into the house from that side of the property.
I agree, it more than supports the variance.
Any comments from the public?
I'll make a formal motion to approve application 14375.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Please cast your votes.
Thank you to the board.
Item number 12, case number 14376, request of Manchester Elliott Home, the second LLC for a variance to the required 25-foot side yard setback in PUD 1465 district, located at 13617 Old Iron Road.
Please give us your name and address.
I'm Tammy Wright with Manchester Homes at 8312 West Reno in Oklahoma City.
Could you tell us about your application, please?
We received a permit, we obtained a permit to build a house and started building it, and then got a call from the city saying that we had a side yard setback that we were supposed to have, and I think there's a 25-foot setback, and we've only got like a 6'3" setback. And the house is already framed and roofed by the time we found this out.
Any questions? Any member of the public wish to be heard on this? Thank you, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Kathleen Ryan, and I live in an adjacent property. My house is actually on Memorial Road, which is directly behind. If you were in this house, it's directly behind. And had this come up when it should have, we would have objected to it. I represent my husband, Michael Ryan. He couldn't be here today. The problem is where the house got built. You're looking right into somebody's back door. I mean, it's ridiculous. And then not only that, we were realizing even when the piers were laid, when the foundation was laid, something was wrong, but we didn't know who to contact because it looked like it was awfully close to our property line, excluding the easement. And but we had some really nice established trees that were like 2 stories tall that would have made a nice abridgment there, but they got torn out. They're gone. And I remember walking out the front door when they first went out, and all I did was sit down and bawl because I kept praying, that they don't take the trees, but they did. And so now, with the house already built, what can we object to except that? It's like in your face. We can't sit out there out front anymore without feeling like somebody's staring at us. A guy came over there, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, and we could see him in every room in that house. Every room that he went into, you could see him. Not that we would be looking, but it's awfully close. And not fair to them nor us.
Thank you, ma'am. Does anyone have any
Oh,
questions?
I have one last object. When I contacted Mr. Wilson, he said that originally this was supposed to be a 25-foot setback, and it only made it to a 5-foot setback. So there is where your difference is and why we object. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else that would like to be heard on this from the public? Any board members have any questions?
In a situation like this, and we may ask the applicant, in a situation like this where you've got neighbors and mature trees apparently were removed for whatever reason, between the parties, there may be some accommodation that they can make so that there's some sense of privacy restored, and we may not be able to undo what's been done, but we're sensitive to your concerns as a citizen and as a neighbor, and we all, value a measure of privacy in our homes, and you may want to have a conversation with the applicant and just see if, there's some accommodation or something that can be done to reestablish some landscaping or something that would restore some sense of privacy that you feel like you've lost.
Have you been able to visit about any resolution to this?
My sense is the applicant, the builder was probably not aware of the concerns of the neighbor, perhaps.
Can I ask you, on this map that we're looking at up here, is the house that's marked RES, is that where you live?
Yes, ma'am, it is. I live where it says residence, and usually my husband and I sit out on our under a portico. And the way the house is, and I wish I had more than what you have there. But the way that it's actually, our house is a lot more forward than that's really showing on me anyway it is. Because we're looking like right into their back, the back of their house. They're out in their kitchen or dining area. They walked out on their porch, they'd be staring, right at us. We were sitting out there.
Ma'am?
Basically,
Ma'am? If you could, whenever you speak again, if you could come back up, so it's hard to hear. Were you finished, ma'am? Would you like to speak again? Sometimes if the property owners visit, sometimes there can be a resolution to things without the board having to vote, and certainly that is your decision, and we're prepared to move forward, but just reemphasize that. Any other discussion?
And in defense of the builder, too, a permit was issued, in error. And so I don't think it was a malicious act on their part. They did the right thing, and they felt like they were doing the right thing. It's just an unfortunate circumstance that we find ourselves in. But in the interest of, and we're not, mandating, we're simply suggesting that in the interest of being good neighbors and being sensitive to the concerns of each other, you all may find something, or you may choose to add some landscape. But I think all of us realize and appreciate, the privacy and that we have in our homes. So,
in that regard, if you thought you wanted to perhaps pass this to our next meeting and to give you all the opportunity to visit to see if there is a resolution, I can't speak for the other members, but I'm sure they would entertain it.
I'm going to ask us to go ahead and move on this. I think, the applicant is justified in their request for a variance. I think, they received a permit. The error was not theirs. But at the same time, we hear your concerns, and we're sensitive to those. So if there's no further discussion, I'll make a motion to approve the application.
And I'll second that motion. In this particular case, I'm not sure if there's any resolution that's going to remove the fact that the building's there and it has to have a variance. So I'm very supportive of the idea of you working together to see if there's something that can be done to restore your neighbor's sense of privacy, but nonetheless, I'll make a second to the motion.
Please cast your votes. You're approved. We are going back to item number 7, case number 14367. Is there anyone here to be heard on that matter? Anyone?
I suggest that we make a motion to continue that case to the August 3rd meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Okay, that being said, is there anything that staff would like to comment on? Anything from the committee? Any from the municipal counselor? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Please cast your votes. Second.